All right, so as I just mentioned, the second of our two videos will still be focusing on the AFC North, this time with the Steelers and the Browns game that happened earlier this afternoon, recording on Sunday. And this was a defensive slugfest to say the least. This one finished 13-10 with the Browns getting yet another walk-off field goal to win it.
Yeah, this is one we picked. I picked the Steelers. I was wrong, and I will get to why I was wrong pretty quickly as we get to the stats on paper. This one definitely kind of tells you the tale as you look at it on paper. And I watched this game all the way through, and man, it was football. And I'm a big fan of defense in all sports, and I like football. Watching defenses cook in football, but this one was just it felt like less like the defenses were cooking and more like the offenses just couldn't do anything. Um, we'll get there. For the Browns, Dorian Thompson-Robinson goes 24 for 43 with 165 yards, no touchdowns, and one pick, rushes for 20 yards. It's his first win as a starter in the NFL. Good for him to come out and get that win. It's a major win for his team for divisional reasons and things like that. So massive win, just especially considering what the Browns did against the Steelers the first time when they lost on a fumble recovery touchdown. So great for him to come out and pull off this win. He had some good plays down the stretch to get them into that field goal position. Otherwise, it didn't feel like much was moving anyway. And then that continues with the Browns rushing game. Kareem Hunt leads them on the ground with 36 yards, which is not a lot. And Jerome Ford is just behind him with 31 yards, and he does score the only touchdown for Cleveland, one of the only two touchdowns in the game. Elijah Moore and David Njoku had pretty good games in the air, leading with 60 and 56 yards respectively. There were obviously no touchdowns in the air. Dustin Hopkins has been pretty good for the Browns kicking wise. They've been in a lot of field goal situations. Dash just mentioned it. Another field goal as time expires winner for the Browns, and Dustin Hopkins gets another one. Just 34 yards. We expect most kickers to make that, but still give him his props to be in those situations over and over again and come out on top. And the Browns do 13-10 with a battle. And so, what did Matt Canada's offense do? Well, nothing. Kenny Pickett goes 15 for 28, 106 yards. Finishing with 100 yards. I would generally, if I hadn't watched the game or something, I would say, man, did they get injured? Kenny Pickett was in fact not injured in this game. He played the whole time. Did not muster up a whole lot of anything. Jaylen Warren, however, was the only Steeler to play offense. It does a lot of it come from one play, but we'll get there. He rushed for 129 yards and grabbed the only touchdown for the Steelers, keeping his team alive until the time expired. However, both his yards and amount of touchdowns exceeded the totals of the Steelers' passing game and actually the entirety of the Steelers combined. Jaylen Warren, in total, would finish with 145 yards, 129 of those on the ground, 16 of those in the air. The rest of the Steelers, without Jaylen Warren, either air or ground, would finish with 133 yards. So they finished a little short of him, but he actually does outgain the entirety of the rest of his team. That's just Matt Canada's offense this year, man. It's something. A lot of this does come from a 74-yard rush where he would explode and get out and do something. Still, he got those 74 yards. Not going to take this away from him. And just a great game for Jaylen Warren. If there's any positives you can get out of this game for the Steelers, it would be Jaylen Warren. It could outgain the entirety of the Steelers. Is that great because he's a Steeler? No. You would hope that the rest of the Steelers could keep pace with him. But at least there's a lot of talent there. George Pickens led in the receiving game with 38 yards. That's, again, not a whole lot. And then Chandon Sullivan was able to pick off DTR, getting a light in the dark for the Steelers' defense. And the Steelers' offense went 3 and out with a minute and a half remaining, which would end up giving the Browns enough time to get down, kick the game-winning field goal, save us from an overtime of this game, and allow those Browns to advance to 7-3, staying very well alive in their division. Steelers are only 6-4; they are also alive in their division. We'll see where things go. I don't think if the season's over for them. We'll get more into that. We get into the later part of the video. But yeah, this was something. I expected a little more out of this, maybe because of the first game. It was obviously a higher score, but it was also a lot of defense. There was just a lot of defensive scoring going on. This one just doesn't quite work out. These two teams kind of strangle each other, and they just don't put up a lot of points. And it's not wasn't the most fun one to watch, but I mean, fundamentally, good game for the Browns. They come out on top, do what they need to do, and they can put this one behind them.
Yeah, putting this one behind them is probably the best way to say what they should do. Look, there's a difference between a defensive game where defense is making a lot of good plays, getting turnovers. I mean, obviously, a game where there's going to be 5 turnovers by each offense is not realistic, but there's a difference between a defensive game where defenses are really good and then the offense is just bad. And that's what this game was. Look, we were texting about this, throughout the game. I just talked about it. The look, I know DTR. This was just his second start. His first one didn't go too well. He's a rookie going up against that Steelers defense, which yards per game wise, they showed it during the game, not amazing. They're at the bottom of most of those categories in the bottom, 10, 11 teams. But it's their turnovers, which we've talked about. That's what carries them, making big plays and big moments, getting turnovers, being able to come alive, keep them in the game until the fourth quarter when the offense is finally able to wake up and do something. But DTR, man, maybe that was the game plan. I'm not really sure. Maybe that's just the choices he made, but I'm assuming it's the game plan because most of his passes were literally like 5 yards or less. I mean, it was a little frustrating to watch. And they pointed this out, Charles Davis, during the game, that they were obviously not really wanting him to throw too far deep. And it's like, okay, at some point you got to let him throw deep. And yeah, it's ridiculous. Like every single pass, it felt like was okay, 5 yards to the left or 5 yards to the right or right behind the line of scrimmage and make him run for like 2 or 3 yards, and then he gets tackled by the Steelers defense because it pretty much seemed like Steelers defense knew exactly where they were going every single time. And basically outside of that touchdown drive they had early on where it looked pretty good, it was the same crap every single drive. Like, look, let me just count this up real quick to see how many like punts they had in a row. So 1, 2, all right. So they had a field goal at the end of the half, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, like including the interception in the middle there, 5, and then they had that field goal. So pretty much every single drive was a punt with only a few plays into each drive. So a lot of 3-and-outs there, a lot of drives basically going nowhere less than 20 or so yards. I mean, again, the Steelers defense is good, but like it's more about the turnovers. Again, it's not really about the yardage. Now obviously against a team that's missing its starting quarterback, despite how mediocre Deshaun had played for most of the season, his last half was probably his best half, and a team without its top tier All Pro running back. Nick Chubb's been out for most of the season now in that game against the Steelers when he got injured. So it's not really a surprise at this point. But yeah, not to criticize the Browns too much. I mean, they won the game, but like it really felt like the Browns should have done a whole lot better in this one, because the Steelers, outside of Jalen Warren, once again the Steelers' offense pretty much non-existent. I mean, Jalen Warren, that's one thing you can hang your hat on. He has looked pretty good. Just 11 carries in that first game that he really got started to get touches on Thursday Night Football, 88 yards, 15 last week against the Packers for 101, and then only 9 carries for 129 in this one. So every time he gets the ball, it's pretty much an explosive play, and his longest was that 74-yard touchdown. But outside of Jalen, pretty much nothing. Kenny Pickett got sacked 3 times. A lot of times it just doesn't seem like he has time to throw. And if he does, didn't really go anywhere. Kind of the same situation there, but they're not even getting really on the outside or anything, getting downfield. And if he doesn't get sacked, he has to run around and just throw the ball out of bounds, throw it at somebody's feet. Like it ain't working. I don't know if it's Kenny and Matt. I don't know what the specific issue is, but this offense, it ain't working. Outside of Jalen Warren, you pretty much had nothing. And the Browns, they really had nothing outside of that last drive, where DTR finally started throwing the ball downfield. David Njoku, I forgot to mention, while he did have some, a few clutch plays here, got a clutch first down at the end. The man had like 5 drops in this game, like a bunch of them were wide open. I'm not exactly sure what his issue was, but thank God he got that last one for them. Because I think they might have left David on that team playing. Well, at least they're in Cleveland, but they were at home. But I think even the plane back to wherever the heck they were going, if wherever the next game is, they would have left him there. So he's lucky he caught that last one for a first down. Pretty much, got him that yardage to end the game there. But yeah, there's really just not much more to say. The Browns obviously use your starting quarterback. It's going to be an issue. They can't expect to have the same level of production, even if Deshaun wasn't playing that well for most of the season. But they can't actually sit there and think that they're going to be able to win games like this. Like they're going to have to open up the offense a little bit more. Obviously, you can still hang your hat on your defense. You're not going to be playing the Steelers offense every single week, but they've got to do something different. Maybe, again, he'll have more time in practice this week to kind of prepare, get things going before he has to start another one, assuming they're going to stay with him and not PJ Walker. I think this dude has to have an arm. Like, there's no way he can't throw the ball. So maybe they just want to keep things simple for this first game, but they're going to have to open this offense up. And quite frankly, I have nothing else to say about either of these teams right now.
Yeah, I not a whole lot left for me to say either. I'll give a brief closure here. I do want to mention too that even when these teams did score in this game, it wasn't great. I mean, the Steelers managed to sit through a 7-minute and 10-second drive to put up 3 points and make it a 10-10 game. I mean, that's not because the Browns defense is making plays. They made some plays, but like Terrence said, these two offenses just weren't doing anything. They weren't going anywhere. Not a lot was happening. So Steelers. I don't really think they have much to hang their head on. I mean, I'd say that you take a loss here and your offense hasn't been good. I think they are fully aware this season that their offense just hasn't been that great. They've survived each game that they have won without outgaining their opponent. So I'm not sure that they're expecting to come in and out offense whatever opponent they're going up against. So they do, however, have a very favorable look at the end of their season as they're about to get the banged up Bengals, the Cardinals, the Patriots, who have been horrible, the Colts, who have not been great, the Bengals again, the Seahawks, who just fell to the Rams because Jason Myers missed a kick, and then the Ravens. So realistically, although the Steelers' offense has not been good, although they have not played great football, they are still 6-4. Their biggest threat comes from having to face the people in their division, and even then, it might not be that bad. They could easily walk their way in to still be getting the playoffs, and we may still have to watch Matt Canada's offense in a playoff scenario. For the Browns, this is obviously a good pickup. They inch closer to the Ravens after that win against them. They also have a decent look at the end of their season, getting the Broncos next. We'll see what Mr. Unlimited and company do against the Vikings here in a few minutes as we record on Sunday night. They get the Rams after that, who've narrowly just survived the Seahawks tonight. Then they get the Jaguars, might be a little tough. But then they get the Bears. Texans could be rough. Jets, it depends. Probably not going to be bad for the Browns. And then they get the Bengals. So both these teams have really positive outlooks for where the season's going. This game should be one that they just forget about and look beyond. And when I say look beyond, I mean that in every way possible. Let's get DTR throwing deep. He's a quarterback. He's in the NFL. He surely has an arm, as Darren said. There's no way that he can't throw. So conservative first game, sure. If it pays off, you win. But let's move on from that. Just because we play the Steelers doesn't mean we have to mimic their offense. I think there's a lot more talent than that Browns offense ready to flourish. I don't know what happened to them today. I know it's weird to lose your starting quarterback. But hey, Tommy DeVito today for the Giants put on a show against the Commanders. So, I'd hope to see DTR kind of get some more room to flourish in the coming weeks. Both these teams have, I'd say, decently easy schedules out of them. So they're not going to go anywhere. We may see both of them in the playoffs. This wasn't a good game. I hope that if they move forward, that they do get to play some pretty good football, and that we are not subjected to a 13-10 garbage bowl in the regular season again.